Welcome everyone to the Sage Intelligence Reporting webcast. My name is Carmen and I'll be taking you through this X Factor Report Writer series. Today we're looking at part 4 and looking at the reporting trees and how you can use them to actually make your reports further intuitive, as well as filtering a lot easier for your customers when you're creating these reports for them or creating them for yourselves. Just so that you are aware, today's webcast will be recorded and provided to you via email. All participants are muted for the duration of the webcast, but if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A control panel, or you can email me afterwards at carmen.griesel@sage.com. Okay, so what I would like to cover today in reporting trees. I'm going to take you through the basics of creating reporting trees, and we've done quite a few webcasts that you can actually go and watch and see in more detail, but I'll go over that briefly. Then I'm going to show you how you can share your reporting trees once created on your PC with others. And I'm going to take you through the different ways you can use reporting trees to filter your layouts in the Financial Report Designer. Then finally, there's been some requests on how you can capture at runtime a particular reporting tree and then apply it to your Financial Report Designer. So I'll take you through the advantages of that and how you can set that up. So let's get going. Firstly, the basics of the reporting trees. Okay, you need to set up your reporting trees, and what I would suggest is that you actually create a rough draft on maybe a piece of paper of how you want to structure your reporting trees. Now, this is filters on account structures for all the different integrations, but for if you are using X3, as this is generic webcast, if you are using X3, you would use your dimensions. And remembering, you would need to use your analytical formulas for that. So today we're going to use Sage 300. It's the most generic one I can use across board. And I'm going to show you how to set up these reporting trees, also how to group them, okay, and to allow them to report underneath each other. Then I'm going to show you a bit of maintenance on how to delete and insert units, as well as remove or edit your reporting trees afterwards. Then one that's come up quite a lot when I'm going around and training people and enabling people is how they share their reporting trees. Now, when you send someone your financial report, you don't send it with the reporting trees. You would need to go and find this particular file, which is sitting in your folder structure. So you would go into Program Files, Sage, and then your integration, and then you would find tree files. And inside there, depending on what you named your particular tree, you'll find your file, and if you send it to your colleague or your customer, you can then save that tree inside this particular folder on their PC, and then they'll be able to gain access to the reporting trees that you've created for your particular report. Different ways to filter in Excel. Today I'm going to show you how to create a drop-down list. Now you can take it to the next level and actually create one drop-down list and then multiples on that. But today I'm just keeping it to the basics on creating a drop-down list and then using a VLOOKUP to then filter the rest of the report for me. Also, I'm going to show you how to add a slicer. So if you're not keen on the drop-down list, you can actually use a slicer, and the user can click on the different options that they have, and the whole format of that layout will then change. Finally, closing up with capturing that reporting tree at runtime as a parameter. So a few things here: you would need to firstly add a parameter sheet to your report. You would also need to add a parameter field into your data container as well. So I'll cover that and show you how to do that, as well as a couple of extra layouts that I've created to show you the possibilities inside using Sage Intelligence and reporting trees. So let's go and have a look at my workbook now. Okay, firstly, just to let you know, I'm using the Report Designer report, which is found either in your financial folder or your designer folder. And for Sage 300, we are sitting on 1.4, but what I would suggest is check to see that you're using the latest version of the Financial Report Designer for your integration. Once you've done that, okay, you would normally create a copy of that because we're going to save some changes back. So I've created a folder, webcast folder, and if I open that, you can see my report that I have demoed, I've already run it out as well, is sitting in that folder. So to start from scratch, to show you how I did all these things, I'm going to create a copy of this particular report. So I'm going to select copy, and I'm going to paste it into the folder. You need to have selected the folder and right click and paste. Then I'm just going to refresh by double clicking my folder, and you can see the copy of that report is now available in that folder for me. I can give it a new name, so I'm going to say reporting trees examples. You would obviously give it either a division name or something that you want to filter on. So I'm going to click apply, and what it's going to ask me is it's going to ask me to change the report template name to be the same as the report name, and I'm going to click OK because I do want that. Okay, once you've done that, to run this particular report out, all you need to do is select your report. You can either right click and run, or you can select the big green icon run on the menu. So I'm going to select run, and that's going to run my report out for me. As you can see, it's got one parameter for 300. X3 has multiple parameters, and I think its evolution has a couple as well. So depending on your integration, depends on whether you get the parameter or not. So I'm going to click on the ellipses for now, and I'm going to select all 3 years, click OK, and I'm going to run that out. Now what that's doing, it's pulling all the data and it's placing it into Excel for me, as well as into the in-memory of my computer. Okay, so why is this report so special? Okay, using reporting trees and the in-memory, which is basically the data that's been loaded into your computer when you open up the Excel workbook. Okay, it allows you to then change the filter of your report and have your layouts automatically update for you. So currently this is a blank workbook, okay, and if I go to my report, my tabs, you'll find your trees node over there, so, or tab. I'm going to click on that, and you can see I have two examples for us to work with today. But to create a new reporting tree, we're going to take you through clicking on manage and entering that in. So before I do that, let me go and create a layout first so we have something to work with. So I'm going to click on my layouts, and I'm going to click on actual versus budget. I'm going to click OK, and I'm just going to change the date, and as I change the date, you'll see my data is automatically updated. Let me just work with these bunch quickly. There we are. Okay, and if I open up my groupings and I double click on my formulas, you'll see that my reporting tree has been linked to my formulas. So I'm just going to press enter, and that means I can now go to any of those reporting trees that I've created. I can click on them, and I can actually click and drag my reporting trees into that, and my data is filtered. Let me show you that again. So I'm going to click on my reporting tree, I'm going to hold it, and I'm going to drag it into the cell next to reporting trees, and my data is updated. I can just delete that cell so that there's nothing in there, and my report is updated again. Now, the reason it's so fast, as well as it updates automatically, is because we've loaded that data that's sitting in all the hidden sheets inside the Financial Report Designer into your in-memory on your computer, which means we don't have to reference separate hidden sheets. We reference the in-memory of the Financial Report Designer. So what I've done, I've created this worksheet for us to look at, okay, and how we can actually use that reporting tree now, or the layout that we've created, to create these reporting trees as well as filter the reports further. So And the first thing I did was I added a reporting trees drop down list. So I listed all the different reporting trees that I could possibly have. So it's as simple as going to trees, and I went into my demo and I clicked on the plus and onto commercial, and everything I had here, I'd given it a name that I wanted to name my particular filter, and then I've basically clicked and dragged and placed the reporting tree next to it. Then using VLOOKUPs, I've basically pulled the reporting trees data back into the report. So let's show you that now inside that other report. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new sheet. I'm just going to name it drop down list. And I am going to click on my reporting trees, and I'm just going to drag all this in now, all the different options that I have in my reporting trees. What this allows you to do, it allows you to basically neaten your filter up a bit. So instead of the user having to use the task pane, they can now use the drop-down list or a slicer that I'm going to show you how to create, and they can actually then use a common name that they would select instead of having to go and click and drag and have this whole reporting tree filter into their report. So the first one, I'm just going to say Sam Limited, or all, sorry. Then I'm going to say commercial. I'm going to go commercial northern. Let's just make that bigger. I'm just going to drag it down, and then I can just change this to southern, eastern, and then western. And then the same for retail. Okay, and now I have my drop down list values. So I want my customers or yourselves to select from this list what they want to filter the report by, and then I want to apply these reporting trees to that particular layout. So to create a drop down list, I've basically gone into my layout. Now remember, I said that if I double click, you can see that is already been linked to my formula. Okay, and if I want to make sure it's the reporting tree, I click on insert functions, and if I scroll down, you'll see C7 is selected under the reporting trees. A quick way of actually moving this without having to re-go into every single formula and change the cell, I would just click on the cell and then drag it down one. What that does is it actually moves the reference down. So for all my different formulas, it's now referencing the cell below. So I'm happy with that because I'm going to put my drop down list inside this particular cell. So I'm going to select that cell, I'm going to go to data, I'm going to select data validation, and I'm going to select a list. So I'm going to select list because I want the list to pull in all the items I have for my reporting trees, and I'm going to select the source. Now the source is what we've just created. So I'm going to select on my cell selection, and I'm going to go and highlight my table. Sorry, just that column, because that's the information we're going to pull through. Then I'm going to click OK. And then that allows me to select my drop down list and select the different filters I want, how I want to filter that particular report. Now what we need to do is actually link this to the actual formula, okay, which is sitting just below it. So to do this, I need to go and have a VLOOKUP in this particular cell. So I'm going to press equals. I'm going to type in VLOOKUP. And what I'm looking up is going to be that retail southern. Okay, and I'm going to press F4 once because I want to lock that cell. And then I'm going to put my comma again, and then I'm going to select my table, which is in sheet 2, and I'm going to go in and highlight both column A and B. Then I'm going to press F4 because I don't want that to change either. I'm going to put my comma in again, and I'm going to say I wanted to return column 2. So I'm going to press 2, and I'm going to say I want it to match. So exact, so it's going to be false, and then I'm going to close that and press enter. And as you can see, it's now updated with my reporting tree. So now if I go down and select commercial, my reporting tree is updated automatically. And if I do it again, you can see all the formulas are now updated because I clicked and dragged that reporting tree down instead of moving it. Okay, so that's how you do your drop down list. The next thing I did, let's go back to my sheet, is I created, and as you can see, this is my drop down list with a bit more formatting in it that you can use. And you don't even need to show this, you could actually hide that particular cell if you need to. So the next one I did is I created a slicer, which allows me to filter my data using a slicer instead of a drop down list, which is quite nice because then you can hide all your column B details and your reporting tree and just have the slicer at the top to filter through it. So what I want to do is I want to now show you how to create this particular one. So let me close that so it looks all nice. And let me go back to my reporting tree, my report. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm just going to create a copy of this. And I'm just going to rename it quickly. I'm just going to put slicer there. And this time around, I'm going to sheet 2. And the data I used for my drop-down list, I'm going to create a pivot table off of that. Let's just give this heading. Let's make this description, division, region, and then this one would be reporting tree. Okay, so now if I highlight that and insert pivot table, okay, it's not picking up everything. Let's just do that again. I'm going to place it same sheet. There we are. So what I want to pull in is the division region. Okay, so I'm going to close that down because now I've got my list of my drop down list that I had previously, and I want to pull that into the sheet that I have. So where we had previously the drop down list, I'm going to remove that. And I'm going to say that's going to reference whatever's in the row 17 of A. And I'm going to absolute reference it, and I'm going to press enter. Okay, so now what we can do is your VLOOKUP will now pull in your information into that. So we're going to add our slicer to this particular report. So going to sheet 2, I click on my particular pivot table, I go to Analyze, Insert Slicer. Now I've chosen 2, but we're going to select the division region, and I'm going to click OK. And I'm just going to change this slightly so that it can go along the top of my report. So you can add multiple columns just to make it neater. Just make it slightly wider. Okay, so I'm then going to cut that. I'm going to paste it into my layout. Okay, and now when I change my information, you can see, click on the slicer, my information is now changing because the lookup is looking at my reporting cell over there and then returning whatever's in the pivot table. And the pivot table is looking at this, is pulling the information in for the slicer. Okay, so there you have your slicer using your reporting trees. The next thing I did is I created a parameter inside my data container for one of my financial reports so that I can pull in a parameter. Okay, so at runtime, when I click on the run button, I want to be able to select a particular parameter for a report, and I wanted to then pull in. So I covered this in the previous webcasts, and I will attach in my email how to do this, and I'll take you through it briefly how to add a parameter sheet to your financial report designer. The first thing you need to do when you're creating a parameter sheet for your financial report designer is you need to look at your union sub-report. Okay, parameters are always placed on sheet number 2, okay, which currently is being added, which currently has segment codes in it. So we need to move all of these up so that we can then add our parameter sheet to that particular sheet. So I'm just going to properties, and this is a lengthy process, so just bear with me. Change that to 4, that to 5. And the reason you do this is the reports have to run out in a certain sequence to pull information in correctly. Okay, so once you've made sure that none of your sub-reports are pulling into sheet 2, we can then go into your report properties, and then you tick on the show advanced, and then you can actually say parameters on sheet 2. Now, the other catch that you need to know about is that inside our Excel workbook, okay, that we've just created, if we're wanting to place in sheet 2 the parameters, we need to go and add another new sheet in between sheet 1 and sheet 3. So the first thing you need to do is go, unfortunately, and unhide all your sheets. To make sure that you're not going to overwrite the one that you need. Okay, let's just go to the front. So I want to insert a new sheet for my parameters. Rename parameters. Okay, and then you can go back and hide all those sheets, and I don't need the instruction sheet, and I'm going to select hide. Now that we've added that additional sheet for parameters to our Excel workbook, we need to save it back to the report inside the report manager. So I'm going to select my report, I'm going to save Excel template, and it's the reporting trees one, and I know that because that's the one I've clicked on. Click OK, that's fine. Okay, yes. So that's busy saving my report now back so that I can then pull in the parameters into my report. Perfect. Now, if you didn't know, you will know now, we need to basically identify which report has the parameters on them. Now, it's normally the first report that is run out and has the parameters on it. So if I go to my union sub-reports, you can see it's my actual report that is run out first. So the bottom one is the first report run out. So I'm going to click on my actuals. I'm going to right click and I'm going to select go to sub-reports. Then I'm going to double click and I'm going to go to the source container of this particular report. So if I double click on my blue icon, which is a standard report, and then double click on my source container, if I have access to the connector module, I'll then be able to go in and add a parameter field to this particular report. So I'm going to right click, go to container, And from here, I can double click on that and if need be, add a new parameter. I went in and added a pass-through variable, which we do have loads of webcasts on. Okay, so just to briefly explain how I did that, I clicked on my data container, I clicked add expression, and I said pass-through variable. Then in the pass-through variable, I've just created a pass-through variable reporting trees so that I can then add or capture that data at runtime. I also then added a text file which basically brings in that drop down list of names. So I've just navigated to my text file, reporting trees, so that I can have a list to choose from at runtime. Once you have that set up inside the connector module, you need to go and add it to your report. So going back to the report manager, I click on the report and under parameters, that's where I'm going to capture that information. So I'm going to click on add, and as you can see, my reporting trees is now available. And then what I'm going to do is if I click on the ellipses, it's going to go and pick up that list that I have in my text file. Obviously, you can enter it in as a SQL a query as well, depending on what you're comfortable with. So I'm just going to leave that as all for now, and I'm going to click OK. And then you can see it's pulled it in. Now it's not filtering any reports, it's not reducing the information that's been pulled into the report, it's just capturing something that you want to then display inside your report. So now what happens is when we click on our main report, which is your green icon, hang on, that's my one. Your report is the reporting trees one, and click on run. You can see we have a new parameter field in there that we can now select the reporting tree that we want. So if I select commercial, and then I'm going to select the years that I want for this particular financial report, it's going to run that report out. It should almost be finished now. Okay, so inside my financial report designer, if I right click and unhide, let's go look at our parameter sheet. And as you can see, we have now captured the commercial reporting tree. And what I did in my particular workbook under my parameters, I just basically referenced that cell inside the parameter sheet to pull in what I was looking for. So if I had to redo it inside our new workbook, I'm just going to copy this sheet again. Okay, so put there, rename it. I'm going to remove the slicer, and over here I'm just going to reference my parameter sheet. And there we are. And there you have your information pulling in. Just remember what happened there was a space behind my commercial. If you're setting up your text, it needs to be identical to what you've set up your drop down list to be over here, because you remember we're using a VLOOKUP to look at this particular list and pull back the reporting tree. So that's a way to actually pull in particular reporting tree into the report. And if you wanted to maybe lock this report down, you could do so and then not allow the user to unhide the other information, and then that will then allow them to view this information in this particular workbook for this particular reporting tree or company or branch. But just remember, they will not be able to drill down if they don't have access to the hidden sheets in this particular workbook. Okay, so then what else I created for you, just to show you some examples on how you can use reporting trees. I've created a few different versions of how you can use examples of reporting trees, and I will send this workbook to you so that you can actually use it and play around with it if you want to. I've basically created a report layout where I've got gross profit by division, and you can see you've got commercial and retail, and I'm just pulling in revenue and cost of sales here, and my reporting trees are actually placed in a column, okay, to the left and not above the columns actuals or quarters. And then that allows me to view a mini or gross profit for commercial and then retail. And then what I've gone and done is created a little chart over here for you to show you the different quarters and how commercial and retail compare to the versus each other. Then moving down, I created revenue by region. So over here, I've basically pulled in, that one's wrong, let me just go fix that one. Trees, demo, it's northern, and it's commercial. There we are. And what I've done is I've basically created a northern revenue, a southern, an eastern, and a western. So there you've got calculations of your different revenues as well as your revenue by region graph over there. Then I've also used to show you that you can pull it underneath a column. So every formula is actually looking at the reporting tree is placed above that column that the formula is in. So if I go to the next one, you can see that they're referencing the reporting tree above it. And then at the end, I've just did a total to sum that up. Okay, just another thing on reporting trees and how you create them. If I go into manage, okay, you can add a new reporting tree by clicking on add, and we can go examples of reporting trees. Now, just to let you know, the company filter, if you leave it blank, it means it applies to any company that you open. You can actually specify a particular company, and you can also select any. Now, if I said Sam Limited here, okay, and I put a star or asterisk, it will bring up all my accounts for that particular company that I'm pulling in all that information for. Now, if I went here and typed in commercial, okay, and I used my wildcards to pull in my account number, which is first, dash, and commercial is the second segment is 100, and then I can do dash and my wildcards to pull in all the different regions underneath that. That will bring in commercial. What I can do also is actually type in northern, southern, eastern, and western. And for northern, I'm going to type in my 4 question marks, dash 100, dash 10, and then again 4 question marks, dash 100, dash 20. And if you want to know how to use the wildcarding, please do go and check out our short videos on how to set up wildcarding. Dash 100, dash 40. Okay, now what we can also do is bring in just the commercial details. So I'm going to type in commercial head office, which means if someone has actually gone and placed any information against just the account number and that commercial number, all my information is going to be placed in there. We can also create an overall commercial. Or, okay, which should technically be that one over there, but we can make that our head. So I'm going to put this commercial head one underneath Sam Limited. Oh, sorry, wrong one. This one under Sam Limited. And I'm going to put head office underneath that. I'm going to put commercial underneath that one and that one. and as you can see, you can click and drag. So if you're wanting to maybe even create groupings, you could do so. I'll show you how this now all calculates when we apply it to our report. But before we do that, if you wanted to remove a particular unit, you just right click on the name and you can delete or insert a unit. Okay, so at the end here, I'm going to type in retail. Okay, and I'm going to type in commercial. Under retail, I'm just going to type in my retail dash 200 dash question mark, and for my commercial I'm doing exactly the same thing, but that's 100 and dash question mark, and I'm going to place them under my all. So you don't have to have the same account numbers, but what happens is when I pull in all, it's going to give me a sum of my retail as well as the sum of my commercial. So allowing me to group my different regions together if you wanted to, just the way you want to filter your reports. Once you've set that all up, you click apply, you click OK, and then that becomes available inside your reporting tree. And there you have your reporting tree. Now remember, there's one folder for reporting trees, and you can see I have all three reporting trees in both of my reports. So because I have this report working nicely, I'm going to go in and use my parameter sheet and pull in my data that I want to use. So for my reporting trees, oops, wrong one, my examples, under SAM Limited, I've got commercial all. So if I click that and drag that in, you can see my data updates. Now if I want to see what's in head office, which no one should be coding into that, I can click on head office and you can see there is amounts in there. Did I click and drag that in? No. Okay, there it is. Let's just make that bigger so you can see it. Then I can pull into commercial. I can pull in the northern, the western, and if I wanted to group them, okay, if I had my retail and my commercial, but I wanted to report just on those two particular divisions, I can then select my all, which is my parent node, and click and drag it into that cell, and then it'll give me a sum of both my retail and my commercial segments. Remembering, once you've changed this, you would need to save your report back to the report manager. So what you would do is you would click on your report, you would click on Save Excel Template, you would select your report, and you would click OK. So that next time you'll have your reporting tree as well as any changes that you've made to your reporting tree. Let's just go back. Yes. And it's just busy finishing saving. Okay. Then what I want to do is I want to show you where you can access other information in using our new learning portal. So I'm going to go back to my slides. Okay, and here you'll find all the information you need. Okay, and I'll put this new X Factor series up on the playlist, and you would click on your integration, and once you've clicked on your integration, it will then take you to a beginner, intermediate and advanced tabs. That will then allow you to actually go into advanced, because this will be placed underneath the advanced tab, and you would search for your X Factor series, and you would have a list of all your webcasts that I've previously done on X Factor series, and you'll be able to view your information. Exactly the same if you wanted to know more about pass-through variables. You would go into your integration, you would go to advanced, and you would click under your reporting, your report designer report, and and see what's available in there, and you'll find your pass-through variables inside that advanced tab. Just to let you know, we also have Excel courses online, and the latest one is our data analysis and dashboards, which is great for when you want to create dashboards for your customers and actually use the best of the new technology that we have in Excel. If you want more information, you can go to our learning portal as well as youtube.com/Sage Intelligence. You can go to our Sage Intelligence community.com as well as your Sage Intelligence Academy to go and see those Excel courses. Okay, we love feedback and I hope you found this webcast useful. Please do like it and share it on your social media channels. Thank you.